package in the mail, MSX games from Japan. Collecting without fail those shoot 'em ups, and that's the plan. He doesn't just collect them, he also codes them too. Join us and we'll go on electric adventures with you.
Hey YouTube, Electric Adventures here with another video, and a video on Spectravideo, which, wearing the Spectravideo t-shirt, I'm very excited about. So there is a Spectravideo Facebook group, for those that don't know. I'll put a link down below to that. Growing list of members, or people who are enthusiastic about the original Spectravideo machines and their hardware. Also, there are quite a few machines listed for sale as people find them as well, for those wanting to enter the Spectravideo area. Now, one of the users, Markus, I've got to look down to make sure I pronounce his name right, is Rautopuro, has done an amazing amount of hard work and put together a Pico-based ROM cartridge for the Spectravideo. But different from the other Picos is it supports Wi-Fi, and actually that's the only way it works. You actually you don't put ROMs onto the Pico. You send the ROMs from a computer via Wi-Fi to the computer, which is fantastic. So we're talking about here is a 8-bit computer talking over Wi-Fi, which is fantastic. Now, the components that are needed, and ones I would like to really call out Markus's detail and attention to his instructions on his GitHub. It is one of the most well-documented GitHub repositories that I've ever seen. So my kudos. And this is stuff that I do in real life, is architecture and run a bunch of programmers and developers. And it's very hard getting them to do documentation. So I really do applaud Markus in the detail that he has done. So he has, everything is there ready to go, but he's designed a PCB, and we'll have a closer look at these under the camera. It looks like a very simple design, not much components to put on. We need one 5-volt diode here, and most importantly, we need a version 2 Pico that has Wi-Fi on it. I've got a couple here. I bought these in Australia from a place called Core Electronics. Excellent service, highly recommend them, and extremely good price. It comes with a little Raspberry Pi Pico helper card, which was actually quite cool. And you need, if you don't already have them, you need some headers. So one of these headers cut in two will allow us to put one of these together. So we'll be soldering those onto there, and then the Raspberry Pi Pico on, and our diode over here, and then we're done. So we'll go through we'll do overhead camera speed up thing while I solder, put that together, and we'll flip over to the computer, show the setup steps that I have to go through to get it working. And then we'll try out sending some ROMs. We'll also may have a look at the code of how all this works as well. Alright, let's go do that now. Right, so after hooking your Raspberry Pi Pico up and pressing the boot select button when you plug it in, it basically pops up an Explorer window, and you can see there's just these two default files in there. And we go to my downloads, and we have, this is the file that you need to put onto the device. We can copy that, we can go back to that previous one, and we can paste it on. And this is what makes the Raspberry Pi Pico so great to use. Basically chucking on the UF2 file on them compiles a new set of firmware on that Pico, so it's literally ready to go. Alright, let's plug it into the Spectravideo for the first time just to see what it does. Right, so we have the device in my Spectravideo with the Pico facing away from it. It's actually written on the back of the board. This side must be facing the keyboard, so make sure you insert it that way around. We'll turn it on for the first time. Now we need to connect to a Wi-Fi network. Now I'll obviously grey out my details, but we need to hook up to a Wi-Fi. Right, so now we're connected. Works really well. Alright, we'll leave that there for a minute and I'll get set up at the other end. Alright, we'll bring up Visual Studio Code. So what I've done is I have checked out the whole repository from the GitHub site. So I have all the things here. The command you use is the send ROM. Now, you need to have a couple of things installed, which we'll go into after this. I'll do a little clip of the things I had to install, but obviously the most important thing is Node. You can download that directly from a site. Now I'm working on a Windows computer. I'm not going to supply the instructions for all the others. All of this is really well documented on the site for the other platforms, so just follow those for your platform and get all the bits and pieces installed. I have copied some Spectravideo ROMs to the root directory of my C drive, and the first one I'm going to try is the original SVI demo ROM. Just going back to our screen, so it's sitting there waiting, ready to go to receive. So I'll just turn that off for a second, and and it happens very quickly. Press enter here. It finds the thing, and the Spectravideo is already rebooting. So it takes literally seconds to send it across. And I do apologise for the little jitter. That is simply a device in the way of my capture, not that I need to replace. I basically need a new SCART switch. I remember this demo from back in the day. So other than not saving credentials at the moment, which could be my soldering, which I will go and check, it's working perfectly. It works really fast. This is going to, like, personally save me heaps of time when I'm doing the final testing of ROMs for the Spectravideo versions of my games, and I do, fully intend on releasing quite a few more. It's quite a cool little demo. let it run, because I think a lot of people mightn't have even seen this demo. It actually shows off some quite good, different graphics capabilities of the system as well. I said, this is the Spectravideo system I have so much nostalgia for. This is what I basically learned how to program properly on. I did have a TI-99/4 before that, but that was a little limited in the programming and the speed of the basic. I did have an advanced basic, but I didn't have that one. So I bought my Spectravideo 328 and never looked back. There was basically one copy of this demo cartridge floating around between, this is in Tasmania, Australia. There was between up north in Launceston and down in Hobart. Quite well done as a demo. Even got a bit of snippet of Spectrum playing in the background there. So this is the productivity software that came with most Spectravideo bundles. Once again, showing the graphics off quite well. Oh yeah, that's another thing. It was a very good machine to support CP/M back in the day, which is actually why the local group of my elders at the time were really into their CP/M machines, and they absolutely loved it as a system because of that. It's actually quite a good demo. And like how they flip between the 318 and the 328 there too, which is quite cool. And we're looping around. Alright, I'll stop it there. So we're back here, this command line just sits there and can get logs back as well. So we'll have a little bit of, for the tech heads out there, we'll have a little bit of a look at the code. So this is the script that's running in Node.js. So it's using TCP and UDP ports. It has a little hello message that the other end is probably looking for. checks its parameters. We've got a create socket here, and a little bit of a handshake. So very simple. I've done a lot of port programming myself in the past for various devices, so this seems very familiar. But basically you say something like a hello, you get an expected response back, and then you can send other things. So TCP connect, right, TCP client write upload ROM is the command, and then the ROM data follows. So where did we load ROM data? Yeah, so read file async. So that's going to read the entirety of the file into that variable. So we have, it's only 32K, so it's tiny as far as a Windows and Linux or Mac computer is concerned. I'm going to send all that data, and then we have the listening for logs. So it's quite literally as simple as that. And then we close the connection, and we're finished. So it's really a very simple set of code. Now, what's the ROM running on the Spectravideo? Alright, so all ROM cartridges start at address 0 in the namespace. You need to disable interrupts and set up your stack. That's the very first things you've got to do. RAM start, launcher size. So there's like a launcher that sits there and runs in RAM, so that's copied to a RAM immediately, and then we actually jump to there. So launcher ROM start. So this is the code here that's going to run here, and we're going to copy that into RAM start. Now RAM start, just seeing where it's defined. Don't have to have things in order in assembly. SVI bias, yeah. A few different useful things. Launcher size. So these are the different messages that come up. That's going to write Wi-Fi, password, storing credentials, credentials stored, and the connecting various messages. Right, okay, yeah, so the RAM is started at the higher RAM boundary, so this should work with a 318 as well. I'll get a 318 later and give it a test. So that's the upper 16K of RAM, which is all that the 318 has. The 328, obviously you can start that lower. But this should allow actually 48K ROMs to be added. Not that there's a lot of those at the moment. I haven't exceeded 32K, and most of the Spectravideo ROMs that are floating around are only 32K, so I'll have to have a bit of a play with that later. And you know, the code's fairly simple to understand and work our way through. I'm not going to go through and explain it all at the moment because I need to digest it a bit more myself, and I'll have a bit of a play. I'm interested to see how we write the credentials. Right, this is IODCAN, yeah. So we've got like a command thing that we send back to the Pico. So, I mean, the other bits are working though, so I'll have to try and figure out why it's not working on my one, but I will check all of my solder joints. Yeah, so it's very well done, very well documented. Right, before we go, I just wanted to go through the site. So this is the GitHub project. It has a lot of information here, so nice good picture, so to make sure that you install the Pico in the right spot, right way around, screenshots, the different things, how to get it running quickly. So obviously you need the bits and pieces soldered together, the cartridge itself. We put the UF2 file on the Pico and it works straight away. And shows how to do that. Yeah, so we'll have to look in why it doesn't install mine and go to the thing. So it's pretty good. So the things you absolutely need is the Node.js runtime. He's got the other things that he used. So I did install the Raspberry Pi Visual Studio Code extensions because I'm going to have a bit of a play later. But all you really need is obviously Visual Studio Code and to install Node.js. That does take a little while if your machine doesn't have a lot of the other components things, but that's very easy to do. You just basically come in here, click this and follow the instructions. So very easy to do. Yeah, so I'm actually very impressed. I'll definitely be playing with this a lot, and you know, it's definitely going to help my development. I will like to figure out why it's not storing the SSID and password, but I'm almost pretty much certain after I touch up all the solder on the pins I may have missed one or something like that. But it was great that the rest of it worked. Obviously I showed you one ROM, I could have showed you a game as well, but that is actually going to be very, very cool for recording gameplays on the machine without... I mean, I do have this SVI CAS, which does load most of the games, but it's got a very clunky interface, whereas just being able to load ROMs like that will help for recording gameplays of the ROMs, which I haven't done in my gameplay series yet, but also for a totally personal reasons for my own software development for the Spectravideo. It's going to save me heaps of time and be very, very useful for that, for testing out my ROMs on real hardware. So I really do appreciate the hard work that's been put into this. And once again, one of the best documented GitHub repositories I've seen, so top marks for that. Alright, I hope you've enjoyed this look at a new piece of hardware for the original Spectravideo machines. I'm Electric Adventures, thanks to all my subscribers, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.